Most men aren't destroyed by war, disease, or failure. They decay by sentence, one foolish phrase at a time, not by bullets, by habits of speech. Words that rot the core, not all at once, but like termites under polished wood. I don't care what anyone thinks. That's just life. It doesn't matter. They sound bold, but they're not strong. They're surrendering in disguise. They're fear wearing pride like a mask. And the worst part? The men say they think they're winning. They think this is stoicism. It's not. It's emotional cowardice pretending to be calm. It's weakness disguised as maturity. Your words are signals. They either build your self-respect or auction it off for comfort. Every time you speak without awareness, you give others a glimpse into your deepest cracks. A man's discipline leaks through his language. His emotional immaturity? Exposed. His inner rot? Announced. Not with tears, but with 5 careless phrases repeated so often, they become his identity. This video isn't entertainment, it's a confrontation. Today we strip away the excuses, we expose 5 common things stupid men say, then replace them with the iron calm of Stoic philosophy. No fluff, no noise, only the brutal clarity of reason. So if you've ever wondered why your words don't bring you power, it's time to find out what they've been costing you. Watch closely. Speak wisely. And if you value truth more than comfort, like this video and subscribe. We're just getting started. 1. I don't care what anyone thinks. It sounds powerful. It sounds fearless. It sounds like something a man says when he's free, but it's not. I don't care what anyone thinks is not a declaration of strength. It's a shield forged in fear. It's not confidence speaking. It's a wounded ego gasping for control. And the more a man says it, the more he reveals just how much others' opinions control him. Like a cracked mirror covered in dust, his voice reflects not clarity but avoidance. He isn't detached, he's hiding. Because deep down he cares. Not about growth, but about not being exposed. He doesn't want to be wrong, doesn't want to adjust, doesn't want to be questioned. So he wraps his pride in silence and calls it self-mastery. But self-mastery isn't loud. It doesn't need to announce indifference. Real composure doesn't come from pushing everyone away. It comes from standing still in the storm and deciding who you'll be, regardless of what they see. Think of a man in a room full of voices. One criticizes him, another admires him, a third questions him. The man who's truly grounded hears it all, then filters. He doesn't flinch, he doesn't argue, he doesn't perform, he simply chooses what sharpens him. But the man who says, I don't care, hears only a threat. He locks the door, bolts the windows, and calls that peace. It's not peace, it's fear dressed in nonchalance. Marcus Aurelius didn't silence the crowd by claiming detachment. He faced them and himself with brutal clarity. He wrote, if someone can show me my mistake and correct me, I will consider him my friend. That's not indifference, that's wisdom. That's a strength, the kind of inner strength that doesn't flinch at correction because it's not built on ego, it's built on self-respect. Most men avoid feedback, not because it's false, but because it forces them to confront the gap between who they think they are and who they've actually become. A Stoic man does not fear opinion. He fears being blind to the truth. He does not silence the world to feel strong. He sharpens his awareness to grow stronger. And he knows that protecting your peace doesn't mean ignoring every voice. It means deciding which voices are worth hearing and which are echoes of your own insecurity. So if you've ever said, I don't care what anyone thinks, stop and listen. Not to prove them wrong, but to see if they might be right. You don't need to follow every opinion, but you do need to examine your own reactions. Because the man who hides behind indifference never evolves. He becomes static, hollow. A man others stop reaching for, not because he's strong, but because he's unreachable. Today, let your silence be discipline, not defense. And when someone speaks truth, even if it burns, lean in. Growth doesn't come from ignoring the mirror. It comes from standing in front of it and not looking away. 2. I always speak my mind. It sounds like confidence. It sounds like courage. But more often, it's neither. I always speak my mind is a phrase men use to justify verbal laziness. It's not discipline. It's not honesty. It's the unchecked ego craving attention, masked as authenticity. The man who says it wears his lack of restraint like a badge of honor, believing that speaking impulsively is some kind of emotional freedom. But there is no freedom in being ruled by reaction. There is only chaos dressed as candor. Real men don't say everything they think. They master their thinking before speaking at all. Think of the man at the dinner table who cuts off others, who blurts out his thoughts with no pause, who believes that being real means never holding back. He thinks he commands respect. He doesn't. What people feel is tension around him, not because he's powerful, but because he's unpredictable. There's no clarity in his words, that only ego in disguise. And when challenged, he doesn't reflect, he doubles down. Because for him, silence isn't strength, it's a weakness. He doesn't realize that the more he speaks to assert control, the more he reveals his lack of it. Stoicism dismantles this illusion. Epictetus warned us long ago, nature gave us one tongue and two ears, so we could listen twice as much as we speak. A Stoic man does not avoid speaking the truth. He chooses the right time, the right tone, and the right target. His voice carries weight, not because it is constant, but because it is measured. His silence is not fear, it is a strategy. Because when you always speak your mind, what you're really saying is you've stopped refining it. Words are not weapons unless forged by discipline. They are not reflections of strength unless sharpened by thought. The Stoic doesn't speak to prove he exists. He speaks to align his soul with reason. And when he doesn't speak, it's not because he's hiding, it's because there's nothing wise to add. He doesn't mistake noise for presence. He doesn't fill the silence out of fear that people might not notice him. He is noticed precisely because he doesn't need to be heard at all. So before you speak, pause. Let the words sit in your mind like steel being tempered. Ask yourself if they bring clarity or simply echo insecurity. Ask if your truth needs to be said, or if saying it now makes it less true. Because real strength doesn't shout, it speaks when necessary and stays still when it isn't. The man who controls his tongue controls the room. Not because he dominates, but because his silence says what empty words never could. Next time the urge comes, when you feel the need to just say it, stop, breathe, decide, speak if it adds value, hold if it adds nothing. That pause isn't weakness. That pause is the birthplace of power. 3. That's just life. It rolls off the tongue like wisdom, like a sigh that seemed too much. That's just life sounds like acceptance, but it's not. It's a quiet surrender dressed in casual words. It's what men say when they've stopped fighting but still want to appear grounded. They call it stoic. It isn't. It's mental withdrawal. It's a man handing over the steering wheel of his life and pretending he's still in control. Because behind that phrase lies fatigue, the kind that doesn't show on your face, only in your decisions. You stop trying, you stop adjusting, you call it fate, but what you're really doing is renaming failure so you don't have to fix it. It's the man who sits in the same job he hates for years saying he has no choice. The father who grows distant from his kids, claiming that's how it goes. The husband who gives up on connection and blames routine. They all say the same line, that's just life. But what they're actually saying is, I've stopped believing I can affect anything, so I'll pretend it's not my fault. And when enough men say it, they create a culture of passive decay, one where peace is confused with numbness and stillness with stagnation. Stoicism has nothing to do with giving up. It is the art of action within limitation. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire plagued by war and loss, yet wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." He didn't say to accept everything and wait. He said, respond with reason, act where you can, and hold your inner ground when the world shakes. Stoicism means building mental strength, not as a fantasy, but as a response to chaos. It's not a slogan, it's a posture, a way to meet life not with complaint, but with precision. The man who constantly mutters, "That's just life," is not at peace, he's emotionally exhausted. His mind no longer searches for strategy, his energy is trapped in repetition. He's convinced that calm is the same as quitting. But the Stoic doesn't confuse restraint with retreat. He sees what cannot be changed, and then moves with total discipline toward what still can. So the next time something fails, cracks, or goes against you, don't numb it with detachment. Don't reach for the false comfort of apathy. Ask yourself, instead, what part of this do I control? Then move there. Don't freeze in place. Don't wrap your mind in excuses that sound wise but feel hollow. Re-engage with life through reason. Not for drama, not for comfort, but for dignity. Even in decline, a man can still move forward if his spirit stays in motion. Today, when you're tempted to shrug and call it fate, pause, tighten your focus. Say instead, this is hard, but I still decide how I respond. That shift, subtle, internal, silent, is the dividing line between a man who's already lost and one who's still sharpening. 4. That's not my problem. It sounds like maturity. It sounds like someone who knows how to protect his peace. But that's not my problem is rarely spoken from strength. It's a quiet whisper of retreat, a man pulling away from duty while pretending he's just being wise. He tells himself he's drawing a line, but what he's really doing is erasing his presence from the lives that needed him. This phrase doesn't reveal a man with boundaries. It reveals a man who's chosen comfort over contribution. And slowly, without anyone noticing, his influence fades. Not because he was weak, but because he refused to step into the places that required more than obligation. He becomes the father who never shows up emotionally because he provides, the colleague who never lifts a finger unless it's in his job description, the friend who watches someone struggle and convinces himself, it's not my role to interfere. He does just enough to avoid blame and stops just short of responsibility. And in doing so, he lives a life that looks organized on the outside but feels hollow within. Because fulfillment doesn't come from what you avoid, it comes from what you willingly carry, especially when no one asks you to. Stoicism doesn't preach limitless service, but it demands presence where integrity calls. Marcus Aurelius, in the middle of war, sickness, and political betrayal, asked himself daily, what is your vocation? To be a good man. Not a man who hides behind titles, roles, or excuses, but one who shows up, especially where others step back. A Stoic man doesn't outsource his responsibility to circumstances. He doesn't wait for recognition before acting. He steps forward not to be seen, but because something inside tells him this moment is his to claim. There's a difference between protecting your peace and abandoning your post. The man who lives by "that's not my problem" eventually finds himself isolated. Not because people turned away, but because he trained them to stop depending on him. Reliability is not just about showing up to work. It's about showing up to life. When you stop carrying anything that doesn't have your name on it, you stop mattering to anyone beyond utility. You're no longer a presence, you're a placeholder. So the next time you feel the pull to step over a problem and tell yourself it's not yours, pause. Ask, who would I become if I stepped in anyway? Not for applause, not for status. But discipline sometimes means doing what no one else wants to do. Because strength isn't in setting perfect boundaries. It's in recognizing the moments where those boundaries must stretch for the sake of something greater, your character. Today, take on one task that isn't yours. Solve one issue no one expects you to. Serve without credit, and you'll discover something deeper than pride, quiet strength. The kind that doesn't speak often, but when it moves, others feel safer, calmer, better. Not because you said something, but because you did what needed to be done. 5. It doesn't matter. It's the softest phrase on this list, but the most dangerous. It doesn't matter sounds harmless, detached, calm, maybe even wise. But it's the voice of a man who's grown tired of fighting, not tired from effort, but tired from believing that effort still changes anything. And that's when life begins to fade, not in one loud collapse, but in 1,000 silent withdrawals. One missed opportunity, one dismissed responsibility, one shrugged off dream. He doesn't explode, he evaporates. And no one sees it happen because the words don't sound like surrender. They sound mature. They sound like someone who's moved on. But the truth is, he hasn't moved on. He's shut down. This phrase lives in the minds of men who once cared deeply. Men who showed up, tried hard, got hurt, and then told themselves that caring only leads to pain. So they started saying it during arguments to avoid a connection, during failure to avoid ownership, during reflection to avoid action. It doesn't matter isn't peace. Its resignation was covered in a calm tone. It's what a man says when he's still bleeding, but too numb to notice. Stoicism has been wrongly confused with this kind of detachment. But real Stoic strength doesn't mean closing yourself off. It means keeping your clarity alive even when the world disappoints you. Marcus Aurelius never said, "Let it go because nothing matters." He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." His words weren't about escaping emotion. They were about enduring it with direction. Feeling it, facing it, and still choosing discipline. A Stoic doesn't kill meaning. He creates it through conscious response, not passive retreat. The man who repeats "it doesn't matter" slowly strips life of its color. His relationships grow gray, his ambition dulls, his presence fades. And the tragedy is that he thinks he's being wise when he's really becoming invisible. People stop confiding in him. Challenges stop seeking him. Opportunities no longer knock because he no longer opens the door. He becomes easy to overlook, not because he lacks potential, but because he has stopped showing signs of life. And the worst part? He calls that peace. True peace isn't silence born from defeat. It's the kind of stillness forged from mastery, when you can feel fully and still choose your next move. That's the heart of Stoic emotional strength. Not suppression, but selective response. You don't need to care about everything, but what you do care about, your values, your discipline, your character, must matter more, not less, as life gets harder. So when that voice creeps in, the one whispering "it doesn't matter," don't echo it. Don't repeat it until it becomes your worldview. Interrupt it, replace it, say instead, "it matters because I'm the one deciding what matters." That shift doesn't need to be dramatic, it needs to be intentional. Today, choose one thing, small, silent, unseen, and do it with total presence. Not because someone's watching, not because it's urgent, but because it matters. And when you live like that, you start to matter again too. The words we speak shape the man we become. Not in bursts of emotion, but in the quiet patterns we repeat when no one is watching. Each of these 5 phrases, "I don't care what anyone thinks," "I always speak my mind," "That's just life," "That's not my problem," and "It doesn't matter," might sound harmless, but they carry weight. They reveal more than you think. They expose emotional habits built on fear, pride, and comfort. And over time, they strip away your ability to lead yourself, to grow, to be remembered with respect. A Stoic man doesn't speak to appear strong. He speaks with purpose. He stays silent, not to avoid conflict, but to sharpen thought. He accepts reality, but never uses it as an excuse to stop showing up. That's the difference. That's the path you can choose, one of quiet confidence, not loud defensiveness. One of self-control, not emotional impulse. One of the thoughtful responses, not a careless reaction. So let these ideas settle into you. Let them challenge the way you speak to others, and more importantly, to yourself. When you catch yourself using one of those weak phrases, pause, breathe, choose better. That simple practice, replacing reaction with awareness, is how you build inner strength. It doesn't happen overnight, but it begins today. Start small. Pick one phrase to eliminate this week. Replace it with something rooted in truth and discipline. Practice it in silence. Practice it in conflict. Practice it when no one's listening, because that's when it matters most. And if this spoke to you, share your story in the comments below. What phrase have you struggled with? What new words are you choosing now? Your voice might help someone else reclaim theirs. Speak less, speak better, and let your silence carry strength.